I've had to turn a light on for this friggin' review, man, because it is dark in England today. Why is it dark? Is it gloomy? Why? I'm not getting into a debate about climate change because I do not have the scientific knowledge for that shit, but why for the love of God has hit winter in June? So Angelique Kidjo, I hope you recognise her name because last year she dropped a pretty fun covers album of the classic Remain in Light by Talking Heads. You may remember seeing her name kind of circulate around because it's one of those things where like you become known for that one thing that you did. Oh, I know that person's name. She did that covers album of that iconic album. Like, of course I recognize the name, but you probably either didn't check it out or you haven't checked anything else of hers out ever. And I want to encourage you to change that right now because this new album, Celia, is pretty fantastic. Remaining Light showed the other side of what Remaining Light would sound like if it was incredibly authentic and traditional in its African roots. Not to say that they were cultural appropriators or they botched the sound or anything, because Remain in Light is a pretty great album as is, but it's just really cool to see that Angelique Kidjo took that album and pretty much freshened it up and changed it completely, and it ended up sounding good. Celia, on the other hand, well, on the exact same hand actually, because it is also a covers album. This time around she's actually covering songs from an artist named Celia Cruz, which I assume you may not recognize the name of because I really don't know much about Celia Cruz, but going back to some of her original songs, I feel like this is a name that more people should really know about. I mean, yeah, sure, Talking Heads is such a well-known name at this point that even if you don't know much about them or much about their music, you've at least heard once in a lifetime, once in your lifetime, but Celia Cruz is just such an unknown obscurity that it's actually really, really cool to see Angelique Kidjo take her songs and make them sound so good. It's so good. Celia Cruz was a Latin pop, salsa, rumba type artist, and Angelique Kidjo is basically spinning these songs into the, once again, more African type interpretations of these tracks, while keeping that flair and energy that Latin pop has always been known for. So when you've just got this blend of styles and sounds, it just makes for such a great, wonderful listen. The opening track, Cucala, is just a dance jam. How can you not dance when this is on? I just do not want to hear you tell me that because I will not understand where you are coming from. The second track is exactly the same, it keeps that energy up. Later on in the album, Quimbara is once again just an absolute dream of a track. Like, it is just such a high velocity song. Like, there is just so much going on. As a performer, Angelique is just on fire. Once she gets going on these tracks, she just keeps it up. She keeps going. There's just no stopping at all. She actually reminds me a lot of Elza Suarez as a performer. Obviously a much younger version of Elza, but in the same way that, like, when they just get on it, they are just on it and they just cannot stop. There's nothing slowing them down. It is just so great to listen to, even though they're completely different styles and sounds. But maybe it is because this album is more in the Latin type stuff that I'm getting reminded of Elza. But even still, just as performance, they are just so talented and charismatic. I never really liked the idea of like, oh well, this artist is just having fun, so you've got to appreciate that they are just having fun, because, well, yeah, I mean, they might be having fun. Who's to say that not every artist is having fun when making music? It's a phrase that I just never really understand what people mean by, but you can just feel the fun coming out of it. Like, she just plays these songs with everything in her. These songs aren't good just because they sound like she's having fun. These tracks are actually heightened by the fact that she just sounds like she's having the time of her life on nearly every song. It's such an entertaining listen throughout, and she's even able to demonstrate how much of a vocal prowess she is on some of these tracks too, where they're a bit slower, they're definitely less infused with that dance pop sound. Sahara, for example, where there's not really much going on with the instrumental, but it still is really good to listen to her vocals just take over the entire song. It's a really interesting track too, because it really sounds like it came from that era when Celia recorded this song. Like, it doesn't sound like it's straight out of 2019, which is cool because it's like she's still keeping Celia's like legacy in a lot of ways in these songs. Like there's nothing worse when you just hear a cover song and it sounds like a complete botch of the original, but yet you just know that Angelique here is never once doing that. She's never once botching the sound. She's not necessarily making it better, but she's just making it sound. It's fantastic, and that's all I'm here for. The album for me has just got everything going for it. Like when it's fast paced, when it's high energy, it's fantastic to listen to. When it slows down, it's still really great to listen to too. She really takes these slower tracks and makes them her own, I feel, on this album. Like you can tell there's just such an Afrobeat influence on these tracks that you wouldn't have ever heard on the original ones. Perhaps slows down maybe one too many times on the album. Like I wouldn't mind replacing the second to last track with another Cucala type track. I mean, that would have just been amazing, but even still, it's not necessarily the worst thing to listen to. It's not ruining my enjoyment, it's just my preference for her sound. This is a great album for me, highly recommend this. I hope you check it out on my recommendation. I am very late to this, by the way. I think it came out in April, but it's just one of those albums that I'm so glad I stumbled upon so late in the game that it doesn't really matter because it's just so good. 8.5 out of 10, one of my favorites of the year. Hope you enjoy it as much as I do. If you have any thoughts, comment below and all that stuff. Subscribe if you haven't already. Have a good day. Goodbye.